Welcome back, everybody, to Aligning with Success. It's April 23rd. My name is Mike DiMuccio, your host. There are some new people. I welcome you back. And some who are inching up on silver, if I'm not mistaken. We have Wendy, who is a new executive. Yes, Wendy? Is that correct? Give me a thumbs up. That's a yeah. Okay. And Carissa, I believe you're inching up on silver, are you not? Yes, you are. Fantastic. So that'll get done this month. And both of you are in the Winnipeg area, because that's where I saw you. Yeah?
Rural.
I didn't hear that. Say that again, Wendy.
Rural Manitoba. We're probably about 4 hours from Winnipeg.
Okay.
Both of us.
Okay. Cool. By the way, your camera on your whatever it is, off your laptop, your computer, it's like a really super high contrast, so it's picking up all the light a little bit more than it probably should. Either that or it's a very sunny day where you are. And it can't be because maybe it is still daylight there. Anyway, welcome back, guys. I just got back from San Francisco, had a great time there. Had some opportunity to spend time with our CEO and some of the leaders. We had a really nice event. It was a very well put together event. It was a really good agenda. I thought the agenda was really good. Randy, you were there. You were a presenter as well. That was just a really well put together event, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was great. Yes, very, very smooth and a whole lot of information and kept the attention. A little harder right after lunch, but otherwise great.
Yeah, I had to go after lunch, of course, so that made it even harder, because you know me. By the way, Randy, anything that you would consider a highlight? Maggie, you were there as well, so if you want to just jump in on this and share with anybody.
Well, I really liked Kurt's remarks about strategy and finding the right people, not spending time trying to make leaders, but finding people that had their own internal discipline and focus. And also, both of your presentations were outstanding as usual. I really liked the focus, again, on doing the activities, but also having the end in mind, working backwards with the activities and the events. And that really came through all the presentations, really. And then, of course, when Herb broke down emotionally, everybody remembers that. And lots of great stories. So yeah, it was excellent. Just covered the gamut.
Maggie, how about you? Any highlights for you?
I was going to say the same things that Randy said, actually. And to underline too, Michael, because you've spoken to us on this call and on the Team Kaizen Roundtable call, that the importance of treating this like a business, giving your business a name, so that we can be a little bit more objective. Although our heart is always there, it doesn't mean that we can't be objective with heart.
Thank you. I'm not sure. I have so many calls, I can't remember which call or if I've covered that on this call, the idea of you are not your business. I did cover that? Okay, good. I don't have too much content, so we could have a little bit more discussion. I did want to announce that currently the new cards that I have approved they have the links for the cards available online, but they don't have the images yet posted, so that'll probably come up tomorrow. Right now it just shows up like this. I don't know if you can see that. It just shows the name of something but no image, and there's 4 of them, and I'll just go through them with you, because I think Ben may have actually been highlighting this, and I was highlighting this on my call that I did last week on his behalf for the leadership call. So let me just share with you some of these cards, the 4 cards that we're talking about here. So we have this one here. The purpose of this card, I think you should all see. The purpose of this call is to bring to the front and center stage, or card, not call, but card, the idea of a wellness home. The concept of the wellness home needs to be reintroduced and become part of our common vernacular, common presentation, and even how we refer to it. It's an environment that helps us do the things that inspire us. In fact, it inspires us in the background to make healthier choices every day. It's part of how we condition ourselves back into health. So having a Unique and Wellness home, for instance, I keep my nutritionals right on my kitchen, what do you call it? Not the counter, but those things in the middle of the kitchen island. So my nutritionals are sitting there all the time. That way, when I walk into the kitchen, it's there. It's always presenting itself to me. And so things that we do in our wellness home, how we set up stage our wellness home, creates that ambiance and that conditioning. The second part of this slide, we've got somebody who's tapping on their computer. If you wouldn't mind, please muting. The second slide, the back of this particular card, is the business agenda of the wellness home. Again, part of the thing that we want to help people understand, business guests, business prospects especially. So I hope you're going to use these as leave behinds. So I have a pack. When I go to Life and Balance Tools, they have an envelope. And in that envelope that you can order in quantities of 10, just a big, large 8.5 by 11 envelope, I slip in all the stuff that I want somebody to take home from a business meeting. I divide that information. I actually have it all laid out on the counter. And I ask questions of my guests prior to them leaving to determine whether I'm giving them product-related information only, or if I'm going to give them information that includes the business based on the discussions that we've had, what they've gained. And so I ask them on a scale of 1 to 10 so that I get a real good gauge as to what their level of interest is. If it's not a 10 where the business is concerned in terms of interest, I don't leave them business information. I focus on the product. So, because I do a pretty thorough job of explaining the value of the business, but this card that you're seeing here really creates an understanding, an awareness that it's a never-ending cycle of health and prosperity, both from the consumer standpoint, but also from the business standpoint. I think it's a really important tool to help present the case for how are we going to generate cash flow, because this card is relevant in the next card, which is this card. And this card speaks to what happens if we do create a wellness home, 5 of them in this case, and those wellness homes produce the effects of that cash flow engine. They continue to consume products, both durables and consumables, to a very modest degree. And that's the backside of this card right here. On the bottom right-hand corner of this card, it says, based on 100 CV commissionable volume per month per wellness home. And all of these numbers on this page, 9, 45, and et cetera, these are people with wellness homes, both people in your organization, including you, and the customers who have wellness homes. So these on the left-hand side represent your downline, and these numbers here represent each of the members of your, let's call them your partners, not necessarily your downline. These are your partners, and you may have considerably more people in your downline. I sure have a heck of a lot more downline than I have partners, I can assure you. So those active partners are the ones who are creating customers and ultimately creating cash flow through the wellness home concept. So that's what these numbers here. So we're talking about thousands of people affected, thousands of homes affected. And if you were somebody who gave birth to this, then you're going to be earning an income based on that 100 CV of these numbers up here. So a silver 500, a gold 1500, a platinum 4500, diamond. These are the ranks you would actually attain and qualify for on a monthly basis, given the numbers below. So how do we arrive at this? Well, we have to have appreciation and understanding for this core circle of influence. Our launch, which is our $1 million list, and then our strategy to get through that list in a timely fashion, should result in what you see in front of you. So out of 100 names, we're going to find at least 5 people who are going to start wellness homes and 3 people who are going to join us as partners. Maybe many more as customers and maybe many more as consultants. But we're trying to be very specific in terms of the qualification so that we are hitting this thing called a core circle of influence. People who are dedicated to a wellness home, and you, by the way, as their sponsor or their consultant, are helping them and encouraging them to not just buy one time, but to encourage them to go through this process of ongoing development of their wellness home. We'll soon have an accredited wellness home where there will be a loyalty program connected to the consumer building that wellness home. And 3 partners to distinguish them from being consultants. 3 partners are people who are committed to the plan. And that plan begins with a launch. So what you see here is the core. Now, I bring this up because in my meeting in San Francisco, I pointed something out, and I think it's something I want to really emphasize here. Let me just give this a big screen here because it's important. What we're talking about here, I love this page. Our CEO loves this page. He's asked me to hurry up and print it. So this is now one of the pages that's available to buy, this card. And I think there's 6x9, something like that. It's the entire Nikken business and your business in a nutshell on one page. It speaks to who are we and what do we do? And what's the value of what we do? Well, we're creating wellness homes, every home a wellness home. In fact, he reiterated that in his talk in in San Francisco, that is the Nikken mission and purpose is every home a wellness home. And so that's one thing that speaks to the impact that we have on society, which if you're talking to people about what do you do, what's the value of what you do, it better begin with the end in mind. And the end in mind is the impact that you have in the world. What's the relative importance of what you're doing in the world? We're creating a wellness home. Well, what's that? Let me show you. And you can talk about the wellness home. What does that mean? Now, it also shows us our business model, which is to find 3 partners and to create 5 wellness homes, each of whom we teach 3 to reach 3. That whole concept, teach 3 to reach 3. Well, what are we teaching these guys? We're teaching them how to create a core circle of influence and to then duplicate that. And so what you see is every generation this duplicates, what is the impact? How does your downline grow? How does the impact on society in terms of wellness homes grow? And what is the impact in terms of your rank and your commissions? So all this in one page. Now, here's the important question. I asked the group in San Francisco, I said, there, you can see the incomes at the top there. Royal Diamond, $40,000 a month. Silver, $500 a month. Which one do you want to hear about? Which one do you want to learn about? And of course, invariably, they all said, 40,000, yay. And I said, great. Here's how that works. Learn how to do $500 a month and then teach 3 to do it. And as you teach 3 to teach 3 that, what you're looking at is the result. So it doesn't have to be eating an elephant in one bite. You can eat the elephant, but you got to learn how to take a bite. And so that's the whole point of network marketing. That's the whole point of duplication. That's the whole point of leveraging and compounding. And it's the thing that we don't really explain well enough for people to understand how it's possible for something so little, so small, so simple can expand and scale into something so big and so impactful. That's why this is such an important card. I hope you use this a lot. Let me share with you then another card. And that is this one. Nope, not that one. We saw that one. Let's see, Cash Onion, Core Circle. Let me just do it the easy way. Okay, so rhythm of the business. This is the card that I used, or the slide that I used to explain a call 2 weeks ago, the leadership call, last Tuesday. that I think really helps to understand what leverage and compounding is, what the support system really is. And this is sort of the card side that explains that. There's events, beginning with daily events. Contacting and inviting is a daily occurrence. And there's the weekly events, the ABCs, and weekly webinars, and the monthly team meetings, and so on and so forth. So all this is a support system that is designed to move people forward. That's the reason why the events are not always the same. That's why the content is not always the same. That's why the speakers are not always the same. Each event has a purpose. Now, we just had an event this past Saturday, and unfortunately, I was in San Francisco at the time, so I couldn't really participate and listen carefully to what you guys all heard, those of you who were plugged in. But generally speaking, that was a monthly event, and the purpose of the monthly event in our process is to help people who, it's a lock-in, and if you remember the zigzag of the process, the lock-in happens in the last step, the what conversation, helping to convert a prospect, or not a prospect, a consultant over to the right-hand side, a partner. A consultant, not a prospect. So the purpose of that event is to identify people who are looking at being a consultant and are a consultant, or have been a consultant for some time but have not yet made a committed decision to actually go after this in a business-like way. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of people get involved in the business and they treat it like a hobby, or they get involved in the business and they only learn one aspect of the business, which is the retail side. They're not really turning on the engines, and they're not getting the help that they need to really turn on those engines. So we want to encourage that by having them make a committed decision, having them make an actual decision to step up from being a consultant to being a partner. Partner means partnership, means a relationship. They're working together in collaboration with somebody who's going to help them advance and start moving up this agenda. And so you notice how this agenda in the system begins with your circle of influence. So how do we get the circle of influence? Well, we do a launch. And to do a launch, we need to invest time. We need to have our products. That's our money investment. And we need to have a contact list sufficiently strong enough, large enough, so that we can actually do an effective launch and create a result. That's what we then will duplicate with 3 people who partnered with us. So it's like baking a cake. You can't just take your time. You got to go according to the recipe. And once it's baked, then you can show somebody else how to bake it. So this card hopefully will help you cement and create a better understanding that there is really a legitimate support system here for those who want to take advantage and grow their business. But I was saying this Saturday's event, the target there was to move a consultant over to being a partner. So what do they need to hear? They've already learned about NECAN, so don't assume they haven't. We don't need that content. They've already learned about the products, so don't assume they haven't. In fact, if you did your job, you would have had them through those steps already. So the last piece, the last conversation is the what conversation, which is what does it take to succeed? So we begin that by sharing a success story of the person that we've invited to speak. And then we ask them a very, very important question. If you had your first 90 days to do over again, what would you do different? Or what would you do the same? For those of you who are going to be watching tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, we're hosting a call, the Hispanic call, and that will be the agenda of the call. It'll be just that, because we want to give them a template for what it looks like for the Hispanic market. So again, the purpose is to encourage somebody to make a committed decision. So what do you think you're going to learn from a tenured success story? If they had their first 90 days to do over again, to live over again, what would they have done differently? And you're probably going to be hearing all the things that you should be doing if this is your first 90 days, or if you're going to take a stab at a 90-day plan. So that's what that call is about. Okay, so let me get to the last card here. Let's see. How do I do that? I better stop share. Okay, let's do that. The last card. I'm having a bit of challenges with my computer here. Cash flow quadrant. Here we go. So this is the last card. Now, obviously, you can see where this card's going to come in handy. This is part of your presentation if you're using the presentations that we designed, the Better Way presentation. But it's such a great thing to have in a one-on-one in a coffee shop. If you're not going to be delivering that full-on presentation, you want to capture some of the most important elements of that presentation because it speaks to the problem and the solution. Where finances are concerned, or for that matter, where health is concerned. So this compound effect slide really speaks to that. Watch the presentation. You'll hear a few ways of being able to deliver that information. And then the back side of this is, or the front side of this, however you decide to use it, is the different ways we earn income. And of course, this then addresses the problem. Why is it that most people are stuck? Because they were taught to be that way. They were taught to be stuck by learning a system through the education process that leans in favor of them becoming an employee. And if they have some courage and break out of the social norms and expectations of them being an employee, they might actually become self-employed, high risk, etc. But those are the two options for 95% of the population, which both lead to the same stress, financial stress. And the key is, how do we learn how to move over to the right-hand side? We need a bridge. We need a means. We need a mechanism. We need something that can allow us to move from the left-hand side to the right-hand side in a reasonable period of time, but not without having to compromise everything. The fear that everybody has is they don't have time. The fear that everybody has is that they don't have the competence, the knowledge of how to do that. And so we need to show them that there is a way. There's a better way to move from the left-hand side to the right-hand side than to just up and quit your job or your business. It's to learn how to compound and leverage a system, which is why McDonald's is on the right-hand side. So these cards should be, I think, handouts, giveaways. You know, if you send them home with this and they're looking back over your conversation, these cards will trigger the conversations, and this will help keep things top of mind as to what is the nature of that conversation, how important is your solution that you've presented to them, given where they're at in life. So these are now available for order on Life in Balance Tools. I'm not sure. I think they're in 10 packs. I didn't even check. They're wrapped up the same way the other cards are. So I encourage you to get them and start using them as part of your presentation and as part of your leave behinds. Any questions? No questions. Okay. Well, Ruth, you were in San Francisco. What was your perspective on that? Can you share a little bit of what maybe you gathered as some insights? You were brilliant, by the way, as always, as well, with your presentation. Very enthusiastic in presentation of the incentives. So thank you for that. Any takeaways from San Francisco?
I did. I took a bunch of notes, especially when you spoke, actually, before lunch when you spoke. Just as I look at my notes, there were a few things that I, let's see. So one of the things we wrote down is, what do you need to become before you can achieve your goal? And that was a different way of looking at things. Also about, I know I challenged you this at dinner, also about keeping ourselves separate from the company and having a name. So actually, Robert and I have been brainstorming on the whole ride home last night. And so there's just a lot of ahas that came of that. And, you know, we hear it a lot. And then I guess, I don't know, there must be something when you hear it straight face-to-face versus on Zoom that somehow it hits. And it was, you know, it wasn't a high-stress event. It was really smooth, and it just really paced really well. One of the things that a bunch of us talked about afterwards was that it wasn't like, okay, 5 minutes here, 7 minutes there, 10 minutes there. it was spaced out. We had enough time to talk and to learn and to get educated. It wasn't rushed, and it was a really calm event. I don't know if that's
Yeah, that we just were talking about that before you joined us tonight. We were just feeling how smooth that event was. It was really well put together.
It really was, and I really enjoyed the energy and the pace and the information that we received. And it was nice to have the different, I mean, obviously we have heavy hitters like yourself and Dave and Herb, but it was nice to have others talk and have there's quite a bit of testimonies that was really good. Sometimes you get away from all that, and it's really important to have some of those testimonies. And yeah, there was just a lot of things that now that we've come back, that Robert and I have to sit down and really just go through things that we have to do that we haven't done, and to I guess target things that we've missed. So yeah, for us it was almost a 10-hour drive, but it was worth it. And yeah, I really liked it. And I look forward to Bernadette doing. I think she's going to do her best to do this as an annual event at a minimum, if not more. And so that's pretty cool. And the fact that we had people from all over, so that was really nice. You know, Maggie came, and it was nice to see, and then Elaine Connolly came from Pennsylvania, and then Margie Kalu came from Florida. So it's just nice to have people from all over, because there was an event, so then people came. If you didn't have the event, nobody would come. So it just shows that, you know, if you build it, they'll come type of thing. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. What else that we came away with? I think the biggest thing was our goals. And of course, going back through the $1 million list again and realizing, okay, if you go through that 100 names list, it's okay. Even if you got a handful, 5 people out of the 100, that's 5 you wouldn't have gotten if you didn't go through that list. So yeah, there's quite a few things that we need to go through. I love the event.
Now, you guys know Ruth. She's not an incompetent. She's a competent leader in NECAN. And look how much she's getting out of this event. So that sort of speaks to how important are events and attending them. Because not only can you be a presenter and a host and share your wisdom, but look how much you pick up just being there.
You do. And also the time, like when we went for lunch, there was like 12 of us that went for lunch that normally we don't get to see each other. And so we were able to talk during lunch and do that. And then of course the dinner was fabulous, but just to be with people that you normally wouldn't be with because they're not in your area. And even though Bernadette's in California with me, she's still 8-9 hours away. And so we don't get to see each other. So to have this event to do that is fabulous.
Excellent. Great.
We are definitely committed. Robert, we were like, okay, we're going to Orlando, we're going to Toronto, we're going to San Antonio, because we realize how important it is to be there.
And by the way, if you're working backwards, which I think was one of the comments or points that was made, yes. If you're working back, like, so now Ruth says, okay, we know that we're going to be at these events. So the decision was made as the CEO of my company that it's in my company's best interest that I'm at those events. And not only therefore that I'm at them, but that I leverage them, that I'm going to utilize them for my activities and focus on having people in my organization found and brought to those events. So now the event becomes one of the staples that you work toward in terms of your business plan. Because what are the consequences? What happens as a result of you bringing people to your event, to the event? So what we've seen is that big decisions are made at big events. And so the bigger the event, the bigger the decision typically is what's made. And since the business is a continual movement toward higher levels of achievement, essentially the achievement is a consequence of the commitment and the decision made. So the achievement is what follows the decision. Therefore, the decisions need to be made, and therefore we need to have an event schedule that we can rely on to help people make decisions, even if those people are us. And this gets back to the card that I shared with you earlier, which, let me get back here. I've got to get a new computer. This computer is giving me nothing but slow. It's super, super slow. Okay, get back then. I'm trying to, there we go. Okay, so share. Here's that screen that shows you the advancement in our program and I like this graphic really a lot because you see that it's not a lone effort, that this is all about people working together to get things done. And to know that there's a rhythm to the business, that those events, beginning with what feeds the entire thing, is you reaching out to contact somebody. Therefore, if we look at the rhythm of the business, what we're really looking at are the competencies. You need to be competent in contacting and inviting people on a daily basis if you ever hope to be successful in this business. So that's one of the very first things that we need to get really good at. ABCs. How important are the ABCs? Well, we want to make sure that people are meeting people every week, if not every day. So those ABCs could be an in-home, they can be an online event, etc. So just keep that in mind, that these are processes that we need to get good at and teach others to get good at. Attending webinars and then maybe hosting them or co-hosting them. A lot of times what happens is you become a guest speaker and then you catch the bug. It's kind of like when a musician first gets on stage to sing, they got a lot of stage fright, but then after they sing that first song, it's hard to get them off stage because they're so excited. So it's kind of like that, integrating people into being able to share their information. But, you know, they say that the biggest fear man has over death, the number one fear above death, can you imagine, is public speaking. So how do we help people overcome such an innate fear? And the answer is start small. Have them share their personal testimony, whether it's on an ABC call or in your living room. And then it goes from the living room to maybe a hotel room when they're called upon to maybe share their story there. And then the story advances and maybe they'll be sharing another component. And then maybe you might ask them, would you cover the product section of a presentation that you're doing? And you help them learn how to be in front of an audience presenting the information about the products, which is usually the first breaking ground, if you will, for somebody presenting. And then as they get better and better at that and their business begins to take off, they're going to be more knowledgeable about talking about other things. So this is kind of a stair-step approach to the development of humans being more. It's a leadership development curriculum or personal development curriculum where a person becomes a greater version of themselves. So if we overlay, which I explained on that previous call, if we were to overlay this chart on someone's business, what you would find, working backwards, is that a Royal Diamond has an international business. They have people in multiple countries, whereas a diamond has business mainly in one country, and a platinum has business mainly in one state, and a gold has business mainly in one city, and a silver has business mainly in one town, and an executive has business in their home. So you go from being a local to a municipal to a regional to a national to an international leader or speaker or whatever. That's just the way it works. Any final questions here before we wrap up?
Yes, Mike, could you touch on the naming your business or direct us to a video or something that would give more information on that?
If I'm not mistaken, that was the call that I did last Tuesday, the leadership call. So look for Ben's leadership call on the Royal Alliance YouTube channel. There are playlists. One of the playlists is Ben's leadership call. And I filled in last Tuesday for Ben, and that was the content of my call. So you'll get all of that insight there. But just a long story short, it was that last grid that I was just showing you where I reference in this particular call. But the mindset of someone who identifies themselves as their business places on them a trap. You can't get beyond your own self-image. Therefore, your business is capped at your self-image. And it's hard to, and we identify with that. We say, oh, I'm a Royal Diamond, I am a diamond, and so forth. And so we even and reinforce that position when we make statements like that. But the truth is, if you look at my Nikken distributorship, if you look at the T4As that Nikken sends out, they send them to Good Vibrations International. That's my company. My company earns the income. And so I'm the CEO of that company, and I'm credited in terms of the public perception of the success of that company. But if you really, really dissected it, wouldn't you agree that my company consists of the efforts of independent contractors in multiple countries to the tune of thousands? So my company is a going concern and a big deal because it has many people doing their thing, and it's not about me. So if you separate yourself from your company, you have the potential now to build a company well beyond your means, well beyond your limitations. And so that's why one of the first things in terms of the psychological benefits of separating yourself from your company is the fact that now you can give your company a view and a vision that you may not hold for yourself. And not only that, but it helps you to become objective, because I don't have to be a Royal Diamond to build a Royal Diamond business. I just have to be me, whoever me is, and get better at being me and learn all the stuff that they're asking us to learn and apply that, and I can build a Royal Diamond business, even if I've never done that before. So by making that distinction, we don't compare ourselves to other people who we think are way more this and way more that than us. So I could never be as elegant or as whatever. We make these comparisons. So it's just a step in the direction of reinventing our business and our business model. Since our business has evolved, it's more of a hybrid today than ever before. We need to evolve our perception of our business and our role in that. And so this thing called the rhythm of the business has always been there to remind us that there's you Inc. and there's the you CEO, and they're not the same. You're the person, and then there's your business. I suggest you give your business a name, so that way we separate the two in our mind.
Mike?
Yes.
This is Carol.
Yes.
I would just like to say that I think, most important thing, at least for me, is, okay, just the calm way you're explaining anything, but your book, Science of the Nikken Business. I'm just really having that be a priority for me to read. And what you just said, is outlined in that book, but it is step by step, all the cards, yes, all the cards and everything that you are creating fit right into that. And one thing that I have up until now is that I've regretted is that I haven't had a team around me to learn to be with people and to, take steps, to transform my whole mind and do all that. But that book right there is exactly that. It gives exactly what I need, and it will help me outline, starting from the vision and from the end in mind, and then creating the pattern. So that would be my one suggestion. Start there.
Well, thank you, Carol. It's a book that was published by Antonio Raimondo. Basically, he asked if I would authorize that, and what he did was he transcribed a number of videos that I was doing I would go on a tour across wherever I was going, and in the process of my presentations, refine them and get the message. And then I'd come back to Toronto and deliver that training to an audience and videotape it, usually 2 hours long. And so that was video one. And then there was another one I did. And then there was another one. And this was over the course of about 2 years. And so those videos would be then distributed to my silvers and above. I would just copy them and mail them. And he decided, or he's always long held the belief that it was some of the best material out there. So he wanted it published, and I agreed that he could do that. And so it was transcribed and put in this book, and it's available at Amazon and I guess wherever else, Ex Libris. And I'm a terrible promoter of myself, so most people don't know it even exists, but it was published in 2005. And our CEO has read it. In fact, he refers to it. And a lot of what you're seeing in terms of implementation from the company is a direct consequence of this material. This material represents a business plan and a business strategy, not only for the company, but for those within it. So I think it's good stuff. I think it's totally relevant. And as you pointed out, Carol, a lot of the materials that are being produced right now are a reflection of the content. So they're in alignment. So having said all that, I guess that's about it. Did you have you have a question?
Question on the Spanish call for tomorrow night, because you sent it out, but I can't read Spanish. So thanks for bringing it up tonight. Did you say it's going to cover moving a consultant to a committed decision, or moving a prospect to a consultant decision?
I wouldn't bring a prospect who hasn't been fully entertaining Niken for the first two conversations to this meeting. The idea is that the idea is to move somebody along a process. Each step in the process expands their understanding and helps them get closer to a committed decision. Because remember, all we're doing is helping people make decisions. And so one of the very first decisions is to get involved in Niken. But that doesn't mean much. All that means is $99. That doesn't mean they're going to actually do anything. And it doesn't even mean they're buying any products. And then if they are buying products, are they buying the product from the mindset of a consumer? Or are they buying the products from the mindset of what's in the best interest of my business? So how do we move them along so that they're making decisions that are moving their business along? And so one of the business decisions are to launch your business. It takes a concerted effort to advance in rank. It takes a concerted effort to win some of these incentives. And that means a collaboration between the new person joining and upline. And since upline's time has to be managed, they're going to manage their time based on levels of commitment. So how do we get the two to marry? How do we get the person who's joining the business committed so that the upline has something to work with? Otherwise, they're spinning their wheels quite often. The upline wanting more for the person than the person is committing for themselves. That's a big challenge. So how do we encourage that? Well, we have an event. And the purpose of that event is to see if we can make this connection happen. So this particular event is called a lock-in, or we've named it a monthly event in Latin America. In North America, we refer to it as the lock-in event or the monthly lock-in event. And that's kind of internal dialogue. That's us amongst ourselves giving it a name so we understand what's the purpose of this event. It's a lock-in. Oh, yeah, right. Therefore, what's the content that should be delivered at that event? And so what we're seeing is that the best content is content that reminds them that it's really a business, and a person can have business success with some business testimonials, but also to include what would you do if you had your first 90 days to do over again? Because that will bring out the most important things that person learned from not doing what they now know they should have done. And so most people who are not yet locked in, not yet committed, they don't know what they should be doing. And then if they do, they only pick and choose what they want to do or what's convenient to do. And so why we want to emphasize what should you do, and in hindsight, hindsight is always 20/20. Let's hear from some people who are further down the road than you are. What would they have done different? And so it puts an emphasis on the behavior of getting the business up and running in a more efficient manner. So hopefully that message speaks to them. And we'll have a new testimonial each time, because the testimonial draws the person to the event, even if it's a consultant who's been to one or two before that. But that same message will be heard. What would you do if you had it to do different? And what do you think is going to happen? It'll be very common. Everybody will be starting to say the same thing in their own way, because we all know what we would have done if we had our first 90 days to do over again. We know we would have done much more than we did. We know we would have been much more effective with what we were doing, etc. So we want to hear that. And that's the message that'll come across tomorrow. Hopefully this will be the first version of that one in the Hispanic market. I'm still sort of coaching them on what this is. That's the point of that call, and that'll be monthly.
Great. Is that 30 minutes or an hour or somewhere in between?
We're looking for it to be 30 minutes. So it depends on whether we have 3 or 5 testimonials. I think tomorrow we have 4.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Is it at 9 o'clock? I heard that they don't have daylight saving time in Mexico, so it's 10 o'clock.
There's probably a mistake on my thing then. It's 9 o'clock. What time is it in Mexico? I don't know.
Standard here, so I don't know. It
check.
was 9 o'clock before, but when I tuned in, it wasn't 9 o'clock last week, so I don't know.
One of the calls don't change. One of the countries don't change, and I don't remember which one it is now. So now that means we have to look at that again. Thanks for reminding me.
It's currently 8:46.
Oh, so they are an hour behind. So that's correct. So that's in Mexico. So it's 9 p.m. Toronto time, 8 p.m. Mexico time, and I believe Peru also, or not Peru, Colombia also changed their clock, so it'll be 9 p.m. Colombia time.
But Toronto is Eastern Standard. 9
Eastern, yeah, 9 p.m. Eastern. Yeah.
9 p.m. Okay.
All right. Great call. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful week, and make it count every minute. Have a good night.
Thanks.